Welcome to the fourth panel discussion in the Innovate SoCal series from January 2014. This program includes moderator Luann Bynum and panelists Matt Crowley, Sean Arian, Carrie Norton, and Sonny McPeak.
I'm Luann Bynum. I'm the Executive Vice President at Long Beach City College, and I want to thank you all for being here today, and I want to commend you for hanging in as well. It's a long day, but it's been a very, very interesting day. We've got an amazing panel of people who have such vast experience, some depth and breadth in all of these issues that you've been hearing about today. And we're going to be the ones that bring home the baby this afternoon and close it out. One of the things I wanted to mention, I'm still reeling, I think, from Ted Zoller's presentation. He put that big hairball, it looked like a big hairball, up there when he was doing the deal mapping. And I was thinking, you know, if we can just create something like that in LA, or maybe it's a different kind of thing we're talking about in LA, which it probably is. But I also just wanted to preface this. I am not an entrepreneur in the business sense. However, I've been called an entrepreneurial educational animal. One of the reasons why at Long Beach City College we are doing this is because we really recognized, a few years ago we recognized that we were doing a great job with putting the right kinds of programs in place for our students. We were putting the right kinds of workforce development programs in place and focusing and targeting the right kind of skill sets. But they weren't getting the kind of jobs, and they weren't getting jobs and the kind of jobs that they really needed. So we realized we had to commit to business development and be able to support business on a continuum of programs and services that would close the loop for our students, our workforce, and make sure that we're adding to the economy. So from our standpoint, we are committing and working also in a community of innovation. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. So what I'm going to do is ask each one of our panelists, please read their bios. They're very impressive. There's a lot more information in there, but I'm going to ask each one of our panelists to introduce themselves and their organization a little bit, just so you have a context from where they're coming from. So why don't we start with you, Sonny? You're sitting down there.
Thank you, Luann. I'm Sonny McPeak. I'm with the California Emerging Technology Fund, and I have a colleague somewhere in this audience, Augustine Urgeles, who is our Director of Education Applications. CETF is a nonprofit statewide organization that the California Public Utilities Commission directed be established to go close the digital divide in California. So I'm here because we focus a lot on Los Angeles County, 10 million people, lots of concentrated, persistent poverty, and we're interested in empowering people through technology and digital literacy.
Thank you, Sonny. Carrie?
Hi, my name is Carrie Norton, and I am the CEO of a company called Green Business Basecamp, which is a hybrid accelerator for early stage entrepreneurs in sort of the green business, clean tech sector. We consider ourselves sort of a global entrepreneurial education company at heart. And we started with offline programs, sort of concentrated acceleration experiences for entrepreneurs. And we're building an e-learning platform for that same audience. And we are also this year going to be starting to work with large organizations on helping to develop intrapreneurial innovation through the lens of sustainability. So delighted to be here and have this conversation. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, Carrie. We'll go to Sean.
Hi, my name is Sean Arian. I lead the innovation initiatives at the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce. We're sort of like we're a little startup inside of a 125-year-old organization. I also used to be the Director of Economic Development for the City of Los Angeles, where I did a lot of their work on developing economic clusters for the City of LA.
That's cool. My name's Matt Crowley. I'm a tech lawyer by trade, but I'm here in my incarnation as the president of the LA Venture Association. We call ourselves LAVA. It's a trade association specifically for the entire LA basin that allows startup entrepreneurs and people that are interested in the ecosystem to get to meet folks like the angels and the VCs.
So you can see we've got a lot of different kinds of experiences here. I think it's going to be a really great discussion. This whole notion of communities of innovation, it sounds easy, but after having a few phone calls about this and getting into some of the issues, it really is, it does have a lot of complexities. So we're going to tease a few things out. We're going to leave this free flow. I'm going to ask each one of you a question, and please jump in as you see fit. And we'll leave some time at the end also for you to ask some questions. But I think, Matt, you've got a great lens. You've been doing this for a number of years. You've practiced it. You're involved in it. You're working with LAVA. You've got a number of categories of entrepreneurs and groups that you're working with. How would you define communities of innovation? What does it mean to you, and what does that kind of a thing look like in a place like LA that has 10 million people and is so spread out?
So that's a fun question, and it came up almost immediately as we were doing our prep call a day or two ago. When I think of innovation, I think of technology and technological innovation. But I know that there are a large number of academics in the room. I know there are a large number of governmental agency folks in the room, and then people that I'm used to meeting at LAVA, the seed stage entrepreneurs hoping for checks over chicken wings. When you talk about innovation, and also listening to the last two panels, I heard this theme. If you're looking to do game-changing technological innovation, that usually requires not only bright people, but people that are persistent and have the resources behind them to be persistent, which requires capital and regular capital infusion. It's not just the seed stage getting off the ground, but it's the rocket fuel that comes with getting venture capital funds to actually go from a $1 million a year company to a $100 million a year company. But there's also a lot of other innovation going on out there. Heard triple bottom line on the call yesterday, heard triple bottom line on the panel that just walked off the stage. And we were talking on the call that innovation, the capitalist model has been around for thousands of years. The venture capital model has really only been around for 50, 60 years. Got started in France, of all places. That model, some would argue, is broken right now. But the classic model was you find friends and family to fund you, you get some professional angels to invest in the next round, you get venture capital money, and you sell your company for $1 billion. Well, that model is breaking, in spite of reading about Snapchat turning down $3 billion. 25-year-olds, God bless them. There is certainly room in there for thinking about more than making $3 billion. There's also thinking about how you help society, how you help your community, and that's where that whole triple bottom line comes in, which requires not only a different type of economic model and investment model, but also having investors that are willing to drink the Kool-Aid and think about doing more than trying to get 100x by doing shotgun investments. Maybe they're willing to do slower investments with a 5x return. So I think that's one of the things we'll explore together. But I think we're going to try and do our best to try and weigh that as we talk about it on the panel.
That's a great introduction for that. And Sean, you've been kind of entrenched in some of the modeling that's been going on in the last few years here in LA. And I know that we've been working with you talking about the IFA as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that looks like? Does it look like the traditional model? Is it something different? Is it breaking apart and coming together in a different way?
Sure. I think it's actually a great time to be in Los Angeles and be in the field of innovation, because there's so much happening here right now. A lot of my career has been spent looking at how do you develop economic clusters? How do you develop innovation clusters in particular areas? So when you look at that, and really it's actually quite interesting. So when you look at it, there's probably about 5 factors that you want to look at. It's sort of that you might call, a lot of times, to say it simply, almost like a shake and bake Silicon Valley. Like, what are some of those core elements that go into making up a successful economic cluster? And really there's 5 things that you look at. And number 1 is technology. Number 2 is talent. Number 3 is capital. Number 4 is the right kind of sort of regulatory environment. And number 5 is this very intangible thing that are examples of leadership. So when you look at those 5 things, it's when we say technology, it's, is your area pumping out the patents or the innovations, or has the R&D plants or things like that that are really creating the innovative technologies. Talent, or it's everything from university graduates and PhDs to sort of the raw talent that can work in your factories. For example, in LA, we have a really vibrant apparel manufacturing industry. One of the only areas in the United States that still does apparel manufacturing, that is largely based on the talent pool that we have here, like just different methods of acidizing jeans, for example, that make them a certain way. So just that kind of talent is important. Capital, so I think I don't need to say much about that. You've heard about it all afternoon. But it's not just that there are venture capitalists or angels to invest. I think it's also that you have a more cutting edge market. So like a market that is more willing to take chances and try things out before they are fully established. Because you can raise capital more organically as well, not just by getting it from a venture capitalist, as long as you have a little bit of seed funding. Fourth is regulation or regulatory environment. You can really see that in things like, I've done a lot of work in the area of clean technology, and the regulatory environment is actually probably one of the most important of those 5 factors. Is California's renewable portfolio standard goals, for example, give a lot of opportunities to build companies that help the state achieve those goals in that area. So in environmental technologies, California is a leader, mainly because it's been a leader in environmental policy. And the fifth, it's a little bit intangible, but like I said, it's examples of leadership. And I'm not talking about political leaders. I'm not talking about like Jerry Brown, he's a real leader on this, or Mayor Garcetti, he's a real leader on this. It's more that people see an example in your region of a commitment to that industry. Sometimes it can be, for example, a successful incubator that's well supported in that area. Sometimes it can be something like, does anybody know, like if you had to guess, like where is the green roofs capital of the United States, right? So there's this whole movement to put green roofs on buildings that's very sustainable, very environmental. I could not tell you where it is, but if you read any newspaper article about it, I almost guarantee you that they will talk about the green roof that Chicago put on top of City Hall, right? Every article that you read about green roofs. Does Chicago have more green roofs than anybody else? I have no idea, but there's a perception that they do because they've created sort of an example of leadership there. So when you put those 5 things together, and you can look at Silicon Valley or Hollywood or the financial services industry in New York, in a lot of sectors, those are the things that you're looking at when you're looking at, is your region going to be successful? So if you're looking at clean tech, or you're looking at high tech, or digital media, or any of these things that we're looking at right now, each one of them, those 5 things are going to be a little bit different. So just to give you an example, and then you dive sort of deeper into each one of those. Just to give you an example, on the talent side, LA actually does quite well. We graduate more engineers in Los Angeles than any other region in the United States. So our local universities graduate more engineers. Our problem is we lose more of them as well.
If they would just not take $100,000 jobs at Google, we'd have more talent.
Well, as long as they did $100,000 jobs at Google in Venice, as opposed to Google in Mountain View. But we lose a lot of them. So we lose quite a bit of our engineering talent to other areas. So we have that foundation. And if you look across lots of different sectors, we actually have a lot of those strengths here in the Los Angeles area. And if you want to think about things happening here in Long Beach, for example, the Port of Long Beach and the Port of Los Angeles are pioneers globally in sustainable transportation technology. So clean technology that relates to moving goods through a port. So stuff about rail, stuff about trucks, stuff about ships, things like that. There is a huge opportunity because government is sort of these government entities are doing so much R&D and regulation in that area. There's a huge opportunities for companies, and many companies have started to cluster in the harbor area that focus on those type of technologies that then can be sold to the rest of the world. So just finding where your strengths are by looking at those 5 factors is whatever region you're in and whatever sector you're looking at can give you a sense of whether you're really going to be successful vis-a-vis other countries. I don't know, should we move on? I have some other things I could say, but I don't want to.
That's a great introduction because I want to come back to that a little bit more. So we've got the 5 ingredients. there should be no reason why we don't have that giant hairball that's sitting up there in Silicon Valley on a map. So we want to come back and talk about that. There's been a lot of discussion today as well about this whole issue about triple bottom line, double bottom line, sustainability, making sure that there's some kind of profound impact on the community. I mean, ultimately that gets to community improvement and quality of life. Carrie, can you talk about that a little bit? And then I want to talk about, that's a model that I think is that you're putting in place, and I think that's something that we should share with the audience. And then I want to talk a little bit about why investors then aren't jumping at that constantly and why that isn't up there. So why don't we start with you, Carrie, and let's have you kind of run us through what that means.
Sure. So, so for any innovation community to thrive and be a sustainable community, you know, you have to have all the factors that Sean mentioned. And when it comes to the context of triple bottom line, I mean, this is a term that's actually not new at all. It's been around since John Elkington coined it in 1997, and you know, he's one of the sort of the icons of our industry. So it's not a new term, but it's actually, you know, just as an example, the term has evolved and the industry and the thinking has evolved enough that I can now sit on this panel, in this conversation, surrounded by people who are working in more traditional entrepreneurial or venture environments, right? It used to be that I would have this conversation, I'd be basically preaching to a choir. So the exciting thing about what's happened in the, you know, with the TBL industry is that it's now sort of becoming, you know, beginning to become mainstream enough that it can occur multiple times in a single day conversation around entrepreneurship. So that is very exciting. Where there's, and what it means for those of you who don't know, sort of it's this notion of accounting for impacts on environment and on society in addition to traditional financial metrics in the business context. And so there have been some standards that have emerged around this. It relates a lot to sort of the question of accounting, ultimately. And so there's some things that have happened over the last 20 years or so that start to get at how to answer this question effectively. We still have a long way to go. And so from our perspective in our company, we're really interested in how does that happen at the onset of the entrepreneurial exercise. So in other words, if we could design companies, products, and services that are contemplating the triple bottom line at the very outset, and we can design those factors into the company, then we're already thinking about the impacts that our products and services are having on society and the environment, you know, all the way down the line. So including what happens to that product at the end of its useful life. So nobody has all the answers to these questions, but this is the paradigm that we are talking about and that is becoming more and more engaging for a lot of entrepreneurs. And I'd like to believe investors as well. But to answer your question about investors, as Matt said earlier, it requires, to some extent, a different mindset from an investor standpoint, and it's not going to match up wholly with the traditional venture investing model. So, but you know, the good news is that that model is changing, as you also said, Matt. That model is also diversifying. So the opportunities for you know, these kinds of entrepreneurs are growing, and the sources of funding are growing, and certainly the consciousness is growing among investors and philanthropists and policymakers and everyone. So that's sort of a beginning to answer that question, I hope.
Are investors finding out that they can, in fact, get the kind of returns that they want?
Oh, yeah.
With something like this?
I mean, it depends on the product, but yeah, I mean, so let's talk about the example of Nest Labs, right? Just this week. That is not necessarily a traditional triple bottom line company, but it certainly falls within the context of clean tech, and it addresses some really important questions. And you know, they created a product and designed it to meet the needs of customers in their homes. In a way, it was addressing a really important consumer challenge. And they just sold their company to Google for $3.2 billion. So again, that's sort of the hype example. So we shouldn't assume that every company that's operating in this space, there's plenty of failures we can count on. As 60 Minutes reminded us last week, there's plenty of failures in the space, but a lot of that has to do, frankly, around the investor education piece and also the policy environment, which Sean talked about.
I have a quick question for you. I have had a theory on the social investor front that, obviously we went through this horrible recession in 2008, you could argue still until now. And if I could invest in Chevron stock and watch it increase by 1% in 2008, or worse, go down by 10%, I might as well invest in something that makes me happy, and if I have the money to invest. And I think that was sort of the genesis for people wanting to do social innovation. If you're the head of Patagonia and you have excess cash, why invest it in muni bonds? Why not invest it into a venture arm that can invest in social innovation? And I think in a twisted way, we got really lucky having had this disastrous recession. One of the good side effects was it caused people to rethink what it meant to have a home run with an investment.
Absolutely, and that's only growing. So it's very exciting for professionals and people like me who've been in this industry for, in my case, 15 years, to see that this conversation can change. Yeah.
You sound like a pioneer in that area. Is there any other thoughts about this whole notion about investors trying to get a return?
Yeah, in fact, I will go back to a previous life because the industry, this socially responsible industry really has matured considerably in the last couple of decades. And what Carrie is talking about, the ethos of a company and how the investors can help drive that, to think about the impacts on people and the environment as you're trying to make money, I think is a very important part of it. I sort of started at the other end of the lens, which is looking at the challenges to a regional prosperity. And this was with the Bay Area Council. I was there for a decade, and in 15 years ago, we capitalized 2 socially responsible equity funds, raised $165 million from our members and some institutional investors and foundations doing PRI investments. And those funds had market rate return targets, mid-teens for real estate, high teens for job generation, to invest in challenged neighborhoods, low and moderate income neighborhoods. Now, they've made those targets, and they were double line, although we also had the triple bottom line of environmental improvement. That experience and seeing why there wasn't more investments in the poorest neighborhoods, in the low-income neighborhoods, which is for me and the the California Emerging Technology Fund, we're down to about 25% of Californians who are not connected, who do not have at home the ability to access the internet with high speed. They are farther and farther disenfranchised from participating in the economy. Many of them live right around the ports of Long Beach and LA, and trying to figure out how the residents of this state can all be productive, have the opportunity to be productive, is really what I think about day and night. And so that has driven us in the state to identify, why isn't there more investment in low-income neighborhoods? And it's all the issue of risk. Who in their right mind is going to go into a neighborhood when there is high crime, there are poor schools, there is no housing that's affordable, and there's really no job opportunity, and none of the job training is going on in those neighborhoods? And the fact of the matter is, people will go where they can make money, and there are many opportunities in low-income communities. The challenges happen to be the responsibility of the public sector. And so it's aligning the efforts on the government side, local, regional, and state, that will make triple bottom line investing in the poorest neighborhoods actually economically successful. And because of that, and you heard Greg Wendt talk in the last panel, some of us working with Nora Campos, building on the experience of Assemblymember Nora Campos from San Jose, building on the experience of what we did with the Bay Area family of funds, have legislation now moving through California that says it actually is the policy of the state of California to attract private investment into the poorest neighborhoods. And if somebody's going to put their capital into those low-income neighborhoods, we'll give priority to our public resources, existing public resources, to reduce those risks. Now that can be huge, huge, and we can make money, and literally all of the TBL investors are on board with this kind of public policy. So now I want to connect a couple more dots here in Los Angeles County and in Long Beach and say, when I think about economic development, you always play to your strengths. And so Long Beach Community College District and the City College and what you're doing, Luann, and your team, and Vivian are all part of the assets in this region. It's the only reason I'm here, because I don't really have that much to contribute. But you know, I really, really, really want to support that. Listening to Sean and the 5 ingredients, you know, all of the engineers that are produced here, you actually, in a community of innovation, have to have the rest of the workforce. And closing in on or reducing the distance between people who need jobs and job training and the employers is really where most regions are significantly challenged. So I want to just suggest that, and we with the California Emerging Technology Fund, working with the city and the county and the business community, want to help in that job training. And I'll close by saying you've got one of the best, you know, several assets here, but in Long Beach there's the YMCA that actually reaches out to disadvantaged young adults and gets them into digital arts. Couple that with Long Beach State University, who has a great digital media you know, training program. Hooking that to our entertainment industry is what is the kind of the value chain or workforce chain that we would like to pursue. Randall Hernandez and I spent a lot of time at the state level, which is totally dysfunctional most of the time. But when I've been before the legislature in the last few weeks with Nora on triple bottom line investing, I see 120 legislators, both parties, really excited to try to roll up their sleeves and get involved. And so I'm very excited about it. And let me, on the port issue, I was Secretary of Business, Transportation, and Housing. There is a great plan for improving goods movement in the state, and it's never been implemented. And I want to say that, you know, jobs around logistics actually pay higher than the median in wages in this state. We had 11% of the world market. We are so challenged to just hold on to 11% of the jobs. The whole world market will grow. If we just keep our share, that's a huge opportunity to grow a job base, but we are not competitive globally for a whole variety of reasons. And if we don't play to that asset and figure out how to make it work, not just make it greener, we know how to make actually it greener, we got to make it productive. Shanghai Harbor does 36 movements an hour, and we do not come close to that here in California. The cargo moving, the containers moving, and we're not reaching out to the communities that need the jobs to bring them in and train them.
That's an ongoing issue. You know, I was thinking about the gentleman at the previous panel was talking. Somebody asked, I think I'm paraphrasing, but he asked, you know, so how do you get capital and where does it come from? And his comment was, you know, something to the effect of capital will go where there's talent and there's opportunity and there's return. And I keep thinking about this whole issue about triple bottom line in communities and trying to catalyze innovation in communities. And
that was Richard Koffler.
But
so, Luann, it was Richard Koffler, and I met Richard because he also has a big heart. He's a very, very tough-minded, you know, venture capitalist, has a big heart. He chairs the Central Latino digital literacy training program, and you know, he is another great asset in this region.
Well, the truth of the matter, too, from an educational standpoint, if we're not training our students and educating our students of color, our minority students, or our majority students anymore, we won't. If they do well, if the poorest of our student does well, then the richest of us will do well, because ultimately they're going to be providing our workforce in the future and supporting these kinds of businesses. But I wanted to throw out this whole issue about, because it keeps coming up today in these conversations, Silicon Valley. I mean, we're all tired of hearing about Silicon Valley. I don't believe that California isn't a welcome place. I know there's some issues, but I think we have amazing assets and talents and things that other states don't have. What do you think? Do you think there's anything missing in the Los Angeles area and the basin that needs to exist? I mean, capital certainly is an issue that's come up all day. Is there something missing that we don't have that we need to focus on and put some effort into to be able to get there?
It's critical mass of workforce for the innovation community.
And can you talk about that a little bit more, Sunny? What
Sure,
do you mean
I
by
can.
that?
I mean, literally, what I mean by that is although we're producing the top end of the workers in a community of innovation, the engineers, the companies are struggling to grow and expand because the rest of the workforce they need is not prepared. We do not have enough of our workers that are prepared to get over the hump to attract more capital. That is what I would identify. Let me turn back to you, Sean. You identified the five categories. You tell me, but that's what I see. There are jobs in Southern California and just in the logistic industry that go unfilled every day.
Right.
They go unfilled.
I agree. And to answer part of your question about Silicon Valley, only Silicon Valley is going to be Silicon Valley. LA is never going to be Silicon Valley. Austin is never going to be Silicon Valley. Denver's never going to be Silicon Valley. New York isn't either. The advantages that they have and are building on are self-reinforcing, and it's going to be tough for any other region to ever be that. But that said, that does not mean that Los Angeles cannot be a technology powerhouse in its own right in the areas where it has strengths. And I think those are the areas that we want to and are trying to, and you can see are growing in LA right now. To look at some of at the Chamber, we launched a new technology center this year called the Bixel Exchange. And what we did before we did that is we went out and started interviewing folks in the technology community. We just wanted to find out if we looked at what did we have, where were our strengths, and where are our weaknesses in LA, in the LA area generally, what are they? And some of the things that came back to us as sort of gaps, some of it was around education, and even on the high end. So there may be a lot of engineers, and there may even be a lot of people who are learning programming, but there was a lot of feedback from the community that they were saying they are not learning the right programming languages, teaching them at the universities for doing certain types of video games or things like that. So there was still a disconnect. So one of the things so one of the areas that they pointed out to us is there are a lot of disconnects in LA between the technology community and the large institutions that in other regions feed the technology community. Right. Educational institutions, large corporates that often that seed that, even government, is that if you look at areas where the technology community is really succeeding, there's a lot more of those, a lot more connectivity between those that just doesn't exist to that degree in Los Angeles. So that's one area. Another is, frankly, is that compared to a lot of other technology regions, we do not do a great job in mentorship and advisory. So we don't have, there's not the same sense in the technology community here that there are enough mentors or other folks that have been there and done that can help them, not make the same mistakes that they've made at the beginning. So that we got feedback on time and time again that we just don't have that kind of mentorship network. Part of that is probably because of another reason, is that it's around geographic spread, is that we're starting to get some consolidation around the west side of Los Angeles in the Silicon Beach area. But for the most part, I think there's still a lot of people who are still spread out. So we don't have that person-to-person connectivity. We're starting to develop it. We're at the early stages of it, but we haven't really had it. And that has meant, that's probably why people weren't connecting to mentors, things like that. We haven't had that critical mass. Whatever anybody says about money flowing to talent and good ideas, I get it, but I don't completely believe it. There's power in proximity. There's a lot of power in proximity. And until we've started to develop those clusters on the west side of Los Angeles, you haven't seen, so for example, if you're a venture capitalist, they're like everybody else. If you're sitting up in the Silicon Valley and you're a venture capitalist, you want to spend time at home with your family, right? You don't want to be at a hotel every night. You don't want to be on the road all the time. You'd rather have your companies close to where you are. LA, you don't want to go down to LA and have to drive all over through the traffic to get to visit a lot of companies that you might want to invest in. But once all of these new accelerators and incubators and angels started consolidating a lot of these companies on the west side of Los Angeles, all of a sudden you have a situation where if you're a venture capitalist in the Silicon Valley, you can have breakfast with your family, you can get on a plane, you come down to Los Angeles, you can see a lot of companies all in the same day. You can stack your meetings to where you're never on the freeway, and you can meet 8 companies in one day, get back on the plane and have dinner with your family that night. And you can't do that anywhere else. And that's what started to happen. That's why things are really, I think, starting to really get off the ground in LA, because we have started to build that cluster on the west side. And you're starting to see nascent clusters in other parts of the LA area as well.
I had read someplace a while back that there's something like, 40 to 60 different kinds of incubators in the LA area and activity.
Give it 10 minutes, it'll double.
Well, Matt, you mentioned that too.
Let me play with this a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
you can call baloney on some of what I'm going to say, but
Or you can do the same on what I just said.
you said about 6 things that immediately intrigued me. One is a lot of people here feel like we're the redheaded stepchild to Silicon Valley. I love Silicon Valley. They're wonderful for us. Now, we've had controversy at LAVA, the Venture Association, about, hey, we invest our seed stage money in startups, and then the VCs come, they invest in them, and then they summon the companies up north. And one of our legendary investors, John Funk, was irritated by this and did a statistical survey and proved that that was baloney. That actually they are not causing our best and brightest to have to move up north. At least they aren't taking the companies. But more importantly, Silicon Valley has a whole bunch of money, and they are not afraid to get on Southwest and come down and spend it, which is wonderful. I'd rather have them spend their money down here than us spend our money up there. So that's okay. Silicon Valley's your friend. When I was I started my legal career in '93, right at the start of the gold rush, and was at the biggest firm at the time in San Francisco. And by the time I got to a software company to be their GC, we had people coming from literally all over the planet. It was a magnet for anyone in their 20s to come. We had MBAs serving as receptionists because they wanted to be in a startup. People were quitting $200,000 jobs to earn $30,000 at a startup because they got a lottery ticket. And they were all excited with their stock options. So from a developmental standpoint, I get it all day and night that for the love of God, we have 10 million people here. Can't we find some talented people to work at these jobs? But I would say to you that what Carrie and I discussed on the call the other day was some of what we need to do here is storytelling. And that was Carrie's idea. And I kind of scratched my head a little bit. And then I came to realize that you and I were saying the same thing, that if we have a Snapchat get bought for $3 billion, guess what? That just validated our startup community in Venice. If we have 2 or 3 of those hit in the space of a year and have TrueCar go public and have a couple home runs, we're going to be known for those industries. And that will attract talent from all over the planet to come here. And we will backfill those jobs if we can't figure it out with the local talent. And the local talent will have to giddy up and take advantage of the resources at Long Beach City College and the other communities here and take advantage of what we have so they can go get those jobs. It will be completely aspirational if we can have a couple of big home runs.
You're talking about catalyzing events that end up attracting and
the last thing I'll say,
talent.
and then I'll stop hugging the mic, is fragmentation. We talked about that too. And we hear that at LAVA a lot. We have people come to us every 6 months. For the love of God, could you find some way to have one place where we could look at all the startups together, or one place where we could meet all the angels? And the last mayor, Villaraigosa, created this Built in LA thing and was trying to figure out how to do it. Quite frankly, those of us in the senior leadership at LAVA, we like the fact that LA is fragmented. We think it's a good thing. You got JPL sitting in Pasadena on top of Caltech. You got semiconductors sitting out in Camarillo. You got Silicon Beach. You got this guy working hard on clean tech. And they're all in different places. And why is that a good thing, and why should we maintain it? Well, Long Beach, of all places,
you know, if you put all your eggs in the basket of aerospace and aerospace goes sideways, uh-oh. Do we really want all of our technological innovators putting their eggs in one basket and we get to watch this movie for the third or fourth time? Even our mighty entertainment industry, we got people going to Vancouver and Louisiana and holy smoke, Detroit to get tax credits to do movies? Are you kidding me? Well, that happens to every industry. And better that we be fragmented, but have some good stories to tell in Pasadena, some good stories to tell in Santa Monica at the Clean Tech Incubator. And the money will come, and you know, much like IBM used to make computers, they don't make computers anymore. Silicon Valley, who knows how long it's going to be before someone eats their lunch. I vote it's us.
Carrie, would you say that some of the triple bottom line work that's being done, is LA leading the charge, the LA area leading the charge in that?
I would say we've been more of a laggard, honestly, but there are some really amazing bright spots in the community. And I personally, you know, with ultra bias, of course, believe that we can seize on the global trend in sustainability and sustainable cities and sustainable innovation in cities, and really grab that mantle and create a whole story around that in our city. I like to tell people, I think we have, I mean, you know, sort of the region too, in general, but, you know, I think we have the living laboratory to create the best companies of the next generation that are solving problems in the environment and society. And we're already doing that. There are a few examples. There's one I'd love to just mention, which is Isidore Electronics Recycling. Based in LA, out of the Clean Tech Incubator. Full disclosure, I sit on their advisory board, so I'm, again, biased. But they're doing e-waste recycling, which is one of the hottest sectors in the overall sustainability investing and company building arena. And they're creating jobs by training former felons to learn how to recycle e-waste. Amazing, you know, jewel in the crown of the potential for sustainability companies in our region. So I think, you know, whether it's water technology or transportation technology, that would be the biggest boon as far as I'm concerned. If somebody could figure out how do we actually reduce the traffic so that our city maintains any semblance of livability. Any number of these problems that we've been living with for a long time, I think are solvable by, you know, applying entrepreneurial solutions to them. And I just want to give a nod to what UCLA is doing on this front. Among all the, you know, I think all the leading educational institutions around are contributing to the advancement of these ideas. But UCLA's got a phenomenal study that they've published, and they're doing a lot in this area. So I think there's pieces of it that we can certainly build on, and a great story to continue to tell.
Well, I want to give the audience a chance to be able to weigh in on some of these things too. We are the last panel. I think you could probably answer any question that was posed from any panel that presented today. Do we have anybody in the audience? Would you like to come up and maybe pose some questions to our panelists? We could go on forever talking about this. I mean, it's really got my interest as well. So, sir?
Good afternoon. Thank you for coming to Long Beach. I'm Joe Ganem. I'm president of the Downtown Residential Council here, and excited to hear all the things that everybody has to say, and hope we can bring some of those to bear here in our own community. I'm going to ask about something that I haven't heard discussed all day. I'm a little bit concerned about it because I think that it could very well impact the entrepreneurial spirit. It's something I understand is called patent trolling. Well, you obviously know what it is. I'm sure you're the attorney, I believe.
Oh, sure.
Okay. And I can see where people can get themselves all sparked. I think one of the gentlemen earlier had used that term, and interested in innovating, comes up with a great idea, and little known to them, somebody's filed a patent on this thing and just wait until their company is actually taking root and beginning to succeed, and then hits them with a lawsuit and takes and dashes their plans into the courtroom. Is that a serious problem for venture capitalists and angel investors when they're investing in something that, unless they go through and check everything and determine that this thing is safe to proceed in, that their capital and everything is at risk, and conceivably, regardless of the validity of the idea and the company that starts up, they can find themselves having to defend that in a court of law?
So I'll take a quick crack at it. Maybe you got a thought on it too. What is a patent troll? A patent troll is a nasty name for someone who is an inventor who comes up with a raft of patents and sits quietly under the bridge, or worse, goes out and buys a whole bunch of patents, doesn't actually use them to produce anything meaningful for society, but they sit under the bridge and they wait for the goat to come over, and then they come over the bridge and they eat them. That's why they call them trolls. My perspective, which may be somewhat naive, is that when I was at Technicolor as a lawyer for their DVD division, we would be suing other people and they would be suing us all the time over patents. And the idea was that Fujitsu had a bunch of stuff on DVD patents, we had a bunch, and we were gonna wave swords at each other and then agree to just cross-license stuff. And it was a big haggling session. However, there were people like the Lemelson Foundation, the guy was a brilliant inventor, and he came up with the barcode. And sure enough, he sat on it and waited for a whole bunch of people to adopt it. And then he called our mothership, RCA, and said, "You've been using these barcodes. Here's a bill for $1 billion." He said, "Oh my God." So that would be a classic example of that. Generally, a patent troll isn't going to come a-hunting for your undercapitalized startup. He's going to come a-hunting for the billion-dollar company that's one of the Global 2000. If you're the VC that invests in Nest, then I think you're keenly interested in knowing what kind of patent protection they're going to put around it before you put a large sum of money into it. But to throw a $500K flyer on the guy to let him do his MVP, minimum viable product, I think you're going to take that bet, understanding there's the risk. But Google isn't going to buy the thing unless everything is completely bolted down. So I don't want to minimize it too much, but I don't think the seed stage, early stage VCs worry about it. The later stage guys do.
And I'll just add one thing to that. The LA Chamber, we're going to be, every year we take a trip back to Washington, D.C. We take about 250 business leaders from Los Angeles to meet with our senators, congressmen, and members of the administration. Part of our trip this year in March, is we're going to have a small group of folks from the technology community, and one of our issues is going to be talking to our legislators about patent trolling.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your doing that and hope you a lot of success. You might stop by the NRA in case they have a suggestion how you can solve the problem otherwise. I have another name for them, but I can't use it in front of this audience.
Okay, we have time for another question.
Thank you. Caitlin Vanover. I am a health information technology consultant servicing the provider side of the industry. Healthcare services is one of the biggest growing industry, and the one with the biggest challenges with waste management and cost containment. Currently, I am commuting twice a month to the great state of Georgia, working with the Georgia Department of Technology and Business Development, working on a pilot program that they developed for healthcare provider that allows them to address issues such as regulatory compliance, EMR, ICD-10, waste management, cost containment, quality of patient care, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the reason I am traveling to Georgia is not because I'm trying to collect my frequent flyer points, but because there are no such initiatives here in California, especially not down here in SoCal. So I heard you talking about fragmentation and connectivity or lack thereof connectivity. What are your thoughts on how can we bridge and address that issue, and how can we bring this back to our own backyards and provide the solutions where we live, where we actually conduct business?
It's a great question. It's come up all day.
So on connectivity, I guess my first answer to that would be Some of it's about geography. So I talked a little bit about the West Side and technology and high tech, but even in other areas. So for example, with clean technology, we had a lot of companies all over LA. There was no real concentration in any one part of the Los Angeles area. So one of the things the city did about 5 years ago is said, well, we're going to take something, we're going to call it the Clean Tech Corridor. We're going to put a clean tech incubator there. And as a result, if you go down to the Earth Cafe that's right next to the Clean Tech Incubator there, you actually will meet a lot of clean technology entrepreneurs there now. It's still nascent, it's still gathering, but you're starting to see that actually there's a little bit of a there now where you can go and actually meet, if you sit in the lobby of the Clean Tech Incubator, which is really small today, but next year they're going to be opening a much larger facility, and you just sit there and watch who comes in and out. You have people from local utilities are coming in and out all the time. Venture capitalists are walking in and out those doors every day. You have a lot of entrepreneurs that are coming in either because they are affiliated with the incubator or they'd like to be, or they're meeting with another company that's there. You have people from government coming in all the time. So you have just, and that has started to create a sense of connectivity in that community in Los Angeles where it didn't exist before. For pure networking, I actually don't think there's as much of a problem. There's a lot of people sort of working on that space, particularly in the high-tech area. There's events all over the place that you can go to. But a lot of it is sort of, to the extent you can, figuring out just geographically where some of those things are happening.
Sonia, I wanted to ask.
If you don't mind, let me jump at that. The ghost of Richard Koffler strikes again. Richard, who was on the last panel, is a healthcare guy and works a lot on healthcare technology. He was a predecessor of mine. He was a president at Lava. And we have a couple interest groups at Lava, Women in Lava, Global Lava, Mobile Lava, but we have one on healthcare. Right. And it's funny because a year ago, we tried to get the people from Amgen Ventures to come to our Meet the VC event, and they said, oh, LA, there's nothing in healthcare. And we said, really? Why don't you come to the First Look LA program where USC, UCLA, Caltech, MIT, Pepperdine, and a couple other large schools, 7 of them, all come together to showcase their healthcare technology companies. So yeah, we have healthcare in this town, absolutely. There are people that are interested in what you're trying to do. I heard 6, 7 topics that you rattled off, and 3 of those immediately had my ears up. If Richard can't help you, nobody can help you. But happy to chat with you afterwards. But yeah, there may not be anything quite as sophisticated as what you're trying to do in Georgia, but there's a community here. But it's a little bit of an underground river at the moment.
Well, I wish we had time to take more questions and spend more time talking about this. It's a very interesting topic, very talented folks that we have here. Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, before we end, could I just say one thing? I just want to, the work we're doing at the Chamber with the Bixel Exchange, we're working on a lot of these issues around connectivity, advisory services, and things like that in partnership with Long Beach Community College District. And I just wanted to point out one person at that table, Linda Bedrosian. Can you raise your hand over there? Anyway, Linda is our director of our program there, so she's a good person to contact if you're interested in these issues.
That's great to know. There's lots of resources in this room. Please pay attention and do communicate with the people that are exhibiting booths out there. We'll be looking forward to having that. Where are you, Jesse? Next year. We're doing the same thing next year, and we'll continue this conversation. Thank you very much. And we hope everybody joins us as well in the reception area.